Hey Steve, how you doing? We'll be on in a second here.
21 by
Enjoy that later.
All right, being 4:30, I'd like to call economic development meeting to order. Any changes to the agenda?
Nope.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carried. To approve the June 29th, 2021 minutes.
motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion about a retail leasing survey. Assume that's you, April.
Am I leading that, Chad?
I'll kick it off and then I'll probably just
Okay.
have you follow up. So the basis behind this is Jeff Hanschke, April Kapiski, and myself, we're kind of communicating a little bit regarding retail spaces in town and some of the I guess the rental rates that we're kind of seeing for some of the buildings in town. And we just kind of went back and forth with some emails and just some communication. And we thought, it'd be really interesting to really know what rental rates are. And I'm sure, like Billy, you've been kind of looking around at town and, seeing that you want to look at different buildings. So I can't remember who came up. I think April came up with the idea, or Jeff came up with the idea of maybe doing a survey in town of what some of the rental rates are, so that we can understand it a little bit better, and then we have a little bit more information if we're trying to attract, businesses in the town. So April's got a great idea to kind of do that. So now I'll kick it off to you.
Just to piggyback off that, what we're seeing is a lot of property owners sometimes haven't even stepped foot into New London. So they don't really understand the dynamics here. So we're just hoping to gather some information. We already have a lot of that data from the tourism project that we're doing with Emily Kling. So Elena is our new intern at the chamber, and she's offered to help with her services to provide a survey. And if we can't, we were talking a little bit about it today. If property owners don't take the survey, maybe we can take an extra step and reach out to them to see if we can get information and do some data entry from there.
But I think it's just a matter of kind of knowing a little bit better what's in town, what are people, rental rates, and
It'll be helpful too. I bet a lot of people have reached out to me and said, what's the standard rate? There's so many variables to that answer. So I think it'll be very helpful information moving forward.
So not to put you on the spot there, Elena, but what are you thinking for a timeline when your availability is? And we're not asking for a deadline for anything like that, but I'm just kind
For
of,
like creating the survey.
what are you thinking? I mean, what's your thoughts of what you've done so far?
Well, I just kind of got introduced to the project kind of today, just got back from vacation, so wrapping up into things. So we're gonna start looking at the basics of it this week and just drafting some stuff, I guess, within the next couple of weeks, hopefully having a good basis of what to send out, and then sending that out, and then wait a couple weeks for responses, and then kind of analyze the data from there, see who we need to follow up on and stuff. So hopefully getting moving on that pretty quickly. That's my first big project. So
We do have a lot of names and phone numbers, but we don't have a lot of emails. So we might be doing some digging for information before we move forward.
And we're just talking about like retail locations, right? We're not talking about any industrial or any manufacturing type thing. I think we're focusing just
That
on
was
retail
What I was thinking,
right now. So,
retail commercial space.
Would that include like hairstylists or, like office spaces? I know
I was just gonna take.
when we had to search 5 years ago or 4 years ago, it was amazing the differential that we found. And, you might want to tailor something to some businesses that have recently relocated, say within 5 years, and ask them that question of what was leasing fees an issue that determined your move? Because that was would have been a big factor when we were relocating to where we did. So, and, you know, for our part, we ended up splitting part of our division and
Oh, yeah.
having a warehouse in Clintonville and an office in New London. Because it was just not even economically, I mean, just short of being able to build something new,
Right,
you know,
right.
on the ranges we found. So maybe try to capture some of those recently moved businesses in your survey and really get to the heart of it. Cause there's like way up here and there's down here and
Mhm.
we found a happy medium, thankfully, but
Awesome.
Sounds
good luck.
We're up for the challenge.
for sure.
I don't know how much confidentiality you want to put into it. I mean, I don't know if we really want to be broadcasting that this place is offering this and this place, but just a general
Right.
downtown, North Water, Pearl Street, or wherever else. But I wouldn't want to get in a situation where people are upset at us for
Right.
putting out.
Yeah, we can always include that.
Right, more just
confidentiality.
general,
Mhm.
general data points instead of the specifics of businesses or anything like that.
You know, if there's like amenities like loading docks or anything like that, that's gotta be probably included in the side cliff notes, but square foot is square foot
Mhm.
and
Right, because different things change the value other than just the space. So, yeah.
utility costs,
Right.
everything.
Mhm.
Good luck. I can't wait to hear that,
Awesome.
to hear the data.
And hopefully use it for a school project then too.
Yeah, maybe if I have time for that this year.
Senior thesis.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to continued discussion about the Grand Cinema Theater.
So it's been a couple of months where, since we talked about this last, but I promised that I would reach out to the CEO of the Grand Oshkosh Incorporated in Oshkosh. His name is Joe Furlow. I got a bunch of the talking points in there, just to kind of recap without reading through every single one of them. I mean, it's owned by the city. They've got a lease with the city. They do collect some revenue from wheel tax, but you know, quite a bit of their revenue is brought in from either the performances, or he did stress that it was very important, the food and beverage sales. They created this semi-formal lounge, hospitality lounge that was used quite a bit before their performances, or, you know, they rented out for private gatherings, and they saw a very large chunk of revenue because of that, for obvious reasons. They did say they're on their website, you know, performances, they rent out the weddings, they got other parties, receptions, photo shoots, and I got off the website, Paranormal Investigations. I didn't ask them about
Oh,
that,
that's
but
cool.
I don't know what that's all entails.
I can tell you if you
That's
would
kinda
Have
like.
you participated in that? or-
No, I've not participated, but it is a group that will come and they do tours of the Grand, and they talk about the history of the Grand, and then they talk about some of the paranormal activities and their ghost stories, basically. And I think at some point they actually were more ghost stories, and now it's kind of morphed into more of that, you know, actual paranormal activity within the building. So
That's
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
Interesting.
they've been really popular. I think they do them. I'm pretty sure they only do them once a year, but yeah, from my understanding, they've been really popular.
Cool. It's funny to see on the picture of the old, on their website, you know, how that looks just like the one in New London. So you definitely a sister facility over there. And I just gave you guys the websites for that information. So you guys asked me to kind of bring back some information of how they're running that facility. So it's a private public partnership. They got a board of directors. There's a representation on the city council. They have to report back to the council with that. But yeah, just it's a different type of facility that they've got it definitely set up in a multi-use type of venue. And yeah, there's more information on the website if you want to get more information. But leading into that, it's kind of interesting that all this stuff came about, but Christine's going to kind of give us some information about the Wisconsin Trust for Historical Preservation and what they had going on, kind of in line with what we had going on at the same time. So
So just to give you a little background, I had contacted an architect who I've worked with before, who was on the board for the Wisconsin Trust for Historic Preservation, just to talk to her a little bit about the Grand and historic preservation in New London in general. And she suggested that I contact the executive director of the trust. Up until this past year, they have never had a paid executive director. It's been a volunteer board that has run the trust. But they're really making a concerted effort to expand their influence within the state. Even though it's called the Wisconsin Trust for Historic Preservation, it tended to focus a lot on the more urban areas, Madison, Milwaukee, things like that. And they really want to start remedying that and become more of a statewide trust. And just to really get the word out to communities about how historic preservation can be an economic engine for a community. So as I was talking with the director, he happened to say, oh, how interesting, because this year the trust is focusing on historic theaters. Yeah, it was a really weird kind of coming together. So I asked him to come up, and we met, Chad and April and I and Matt Jerez, who's the director, met together, and he was telling us about a workshop that they are going to be doing. The Wisconsin Trust is it's totally focused on saving Wisconsin's historic theaters, and it's going to be taking place over at Taliesin, over in the Spring Green area in September. And as part of that, he's actually invited us to do a presentation about the Grand. Part of that is that his graduate students, he's a professor at UW-Milwaukee, his graduate students would come and do a scan inside and out of the Grand Theater to create a three-dimensional both digital model, and I believe they're talking about doing like a small scale model, three-dimensional. And that's part of his classwork to do this, that these graduate students would do this. So April was kind enough to facilitate that, which wasn't as easy as it sounds. But have they done the inside?
They've just done the
yet?
exterior so far. We're
Okay,
gonna do the interior soon.
Okay. So that will actually also be part of the presentation. We thought it might be a good idea to see if maybe Margie Brown would tag team with me to, it's a short presentation. They're actually inviting a number of other historic theater or communities with historic theaters to also present. So Margie, I just kind of mentioned this to Margie. I'm not sure she's going to be able to attend or not, but I thought it would be an interesting tag team. I would take the early history, and then she would talk about the Friends of the Grand and what they did and kind of that later history. So I think it'll be kind of a nice tag team between the two of us. And like I said, I don't know, I emailed Margie to let her know about the meeting tonight. She's out of town, so she wasn't able to attend. So I'm not sure if she's available. The unfortunate kind of scheduling thing is that it's the same weekend as Rock the Block. So as cool as I think it would have been for, more people to be able to attend, because I think there's going to be a lot of really good information, I'm probably going to be the one there, hopefully with Margie. So I did, as you can see, Chad did include the website for the agenda and things like that for this workshop. I think it's going to be really good. It's a 2-day workshop, and it really is going to be kind of just trying to hook people up with people who do restoration work, but also talking a lot about the economic development portion of it and the importance of these historic theaters can play in the economic development of these communities.
When they do the inside, so has that been scheduled, the interior of the
So
three?
we're working on a few different schedules, so it has to align with the research student, and then Margie's gonna help me with the lights, and I'll let them in. So as soon as the three of our schedules align, will be going in before September, so.
And who gets that? Like, does the city get a copy of that? Who retains that? Because that is valuable.
I will make a request that the museum retains a copy of that for our archival collection. I think the owner will also get, and I can see about, if the chamber or the city, something, so I can definitely ask about that.
Yeah, that is.
It's going to be extremely valuable to that owner when he's interested in selling. It's going to be.
To whoever, even if it's us, is the city somehow, that they are unbelievably accurate. We've done them at the branch, and it's, some guys come in for literally a couple hours and you've got an exact dimension of every single room, every single countertop. It's very accurate and valuable.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a problem for them to make sure, like I said, at least that the museum has it.
How long is the grant at Oshkosh? I forget now. I go back many, many years, but how long has that been a retired theater like the Grand here in New London?
The one in Oshkosh,
When's the last time they were showing public movies and stuff?
they don't show movies.
I mean, how
They've kept it as an opera house.
Even in the 60s?
I think in the 60s they did, the 60s and 70s, I believe. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it says,
Says in 1980, there was a referendum, for the citizens, residents regarding the destiny of the building.
Okay.
but I think it was the 70s when they stopped showing movies
That
there.
was converted to basically the same thing as what we've got now.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, but they brought theirs back to live theater, concerts. Yeah, so.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention, Chad, that it looks like the owner updated the Grand Cinema Theater's Facebook page, and they're waiting for technicians to come in with equipment to be installed to replace the digital equipment that did not survive the long close. So they do have plans to reopen.
All right.
Margie's in the loop on this.
She is, yeah. Like I said, the attendance, the admission is $100 to attend the workshop. So it's going to kind of depend upon whether she's able to do that, interested, and if she's available. She had to kind of see what the theater schedule was, whether she was going to be available. Yep.
Worried about the $100, we'll take up a collection to get part of it paid for.
Yeah, I think that this committee should certainly
I
do
was talking
that.
to Margie last week and asked her what's going on. She hasn't heard much of stuff, so this is.
Yeah.
news to me too.
They got their information out a little late, and I think that was because this is kind of a new thing that the trust is doing. So, and Matt just came on board as the director relatively recently. So I think they're a little bit behind where they kind of want to be. So yeah, so I sent her the link to all of the information and everything. Like I said, she's out of town, but I'll make sure to touch base with her.
I guess with that said, I mean, we don't really have a direction where we were going with any of this. It was just continued discussion. I mean, I think we invite Christine back, to follow up to see what she's learned from this workshop. And I mean, we're still in hopes that the owner can open up relatively soon and get movies going again. So with that said, I mean, does the committee have any other direction? We're just gonna kind of wait and see, what the owner does, and it's a private building. So I mean, it's not something that, we have a right to just come in and do anything by any means, but obviously we want to encourage and we want to, make sure that it survives and it thrives. But other than that, is there anything else that you guys want to see at this point? Or we're just kind of wait and see?
Hey, Chad, it's Hans Thompson. Can you hear me?
You got,
I think it seems appropriate to wait and see what the current owner does with the property. It sounds like they do have some plans for it, and I think it also sounds like they've taken it off the market. But I mean, he is well aware of our interest in preserving the building for the community, and so if at some point he has a proposal for us, we could certainly entertain it.
no, he hasn't taken it off the market, April, has he? It's still on the
He's
market.
still willing to talk with anyone who's purchasing.
So it's still on the market, but he's looking at trying to get it
Right.
opened up for the time
It-
being,
it-
which
From my understanding, it just sounds like he's not interested in working with a realtor. He's just gonna try to work through it with a lawyer.
but obviously having an
So it's
oper-
not listed for sale, but it is for sale.
I'm sorry, Hans, I spoke over you. What'd you say?
So it's not listed for sale, but it is for sale.
That's correct.
So yeah, I'll be happy to report back. If you have some time and you look at the website, all of the sessions that you see that they're offering at the workshop, those are all, I will be attending all of them. It won't be, oh, you have to pick 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. They're going to run them so that we attend to all of them. So I'll be happy to come back and report to the committee after September.
Good, please do.
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you for representing the women.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Christine. Moving on to updates and reports. Business updates, April.
All right, I just have a few updates for you. The bottle shop, I think everybody knows where that's located, 303 South Shawano Street, right over the bridge.
You did what?
The bottle shop
Did what?
has a new owner.
Oh,
So I'm not sure if you're aware of some of the history that Tom and Dory had gone through. They had tried to do a land contract with someone from outside of town, and the deal went sour. So Tom ended up coming back in and taking on some debt because of that deal, and has been trying to sell it since. So I'm really excited to see a new owner come into play. The current owner of Change Up Vape, which was located at 316 West Wapaka Street, right in the plaza, has merged her business and plans to keep the name, The Bottle Shop. And she's just kind of working through inventory right now and finalizing things with Tom. But that will leave a vacancy in the plaza once she has completely moved out. The CNR Waterfront Bar located at 408 West North Water Street has a new owner as well, Sean Frazier from the Kimberly area. Chad, does he plan to keep it the waterfront bar? I didn't see anything in the emails.
From my understanding, yes. And he said he was gonna come in, schedule something for early, I think the first week in August, just to
August.
pop in and say hi and introduce himself. But from my understanding, yes.
Awesome. So we, another bar owner who's been trying to sell that property. So we're excited to see that change hands. The next update, a tenant from the plaza shared that Domino's, which is located at 316 B Wolf River Plaza. You're going to see a trend here, another vacancy that's going to be coming up in the plaza, is planning to move to the former diner right next to the chamber at 400 North Shawano. Right now they're doing a lot of work on the building, so we're getting lots of calls from the community. What's going on with that building? What's going on? What's going there? So I've reached out to Domino's for confirmation. They have not reached back out to confirm. We just know what this tenant has shared, that they plan to move into that building next year. So
which one?
that's going to be the former family
Hardee's.
diner right next to the chamber.
Domino's
It
been
was
moving there?
Hardee's. Mhm,
Ooh,
mhm. Yeah.
interesting.
So I'm not sure what their plans are, if they plan to do the
It was sit
drive
down
through
restaurant.
and sit down, but they're definitely
Huh.
doing some remodeling on the roof and interior right now. And then I wanted to share that I'm currently working with 2 businesses that are interested in acquiring a building or leasing space in New London. That's all I have.
Thank you, April. City Administrator report, Chad.
Yep, just a couple of things I have in my memo. I met with Tuffy Boats on July 2nd. We just kind of talked about how well he's doing and his future plans for expansion. So hopefully in the future, things go well for him, that he can talk about expanding his business, and he's rocking. But he's also expressing the concern that we've heard from a lot of other people in just the challenge of finding supplies, because he's trying to build his products and just can't get his supplies and his materials fast enough. So just like everywhere else, he's not immune to what's going on there. And then secondly, and I put a bunch of the dot voting, we called it, posters along the wall over here. And when you guys leave, check them out. On July 14th, we held our first public open house meeting for the downtown project. And we're trying to do as much outreach as we can with the downtown business owners and the downtown property owners to get the word out about the 2024 reconstruction project. We did a survey already. We've got a small downtown committee that's formed to help us. One of the requirements in this grant that we have, this STP urban grant, is to do a public involvement plan. So we really have to go through some outreach, and we really have to prove that we're doing all this in this grant. One of those hoops you got to jump through for the grant. So we held our first open house on the 14th. We had about 36 people attend. The funny thing was, after the open house, I posted a bunch of those on Facebook, and people continued to vote on Facebook. I haven't put their votes on here yet. I will just kind of let it go, and then I'll put those on there as well. But you can clearly see what the trends are, what people like. So even if we had 100 more dots on those boards, I think the percentages will be about the same. So I think we've got a good idea on those boards, whether they like the theme of what I got, modern versus vintage on there, or if they want to see planters in the downtown or colored crosswalks, and you can kind of see what people are leaning towards. Then closer behind Christine back there was all the different widths of roadway. So the one that Christine's holding up right now is an example of what the narrowest roadway would be, but to maximize the sidewalk. And as you go to your right, each one of those boards adds another foot in the roadway and loses a foot on the sidewalk. So you can kind of see that people were gravitating towards narrowing up the road to maximize the sidewalk width. I'm not going to guarantee we're going to go quite that narrow on the road. I think what we're going to do is that upcoming Board of Public Works meeting, we'll talk about, and maybe that's what we'll talk about next week. I didn't know if we'd have an agenda item, but now that I think about it, we can do that. We need to discuss what our typical width is going to be for the roads. The Public Works Committee can decide that. That really sets the stage for the engineers. Once they know that width, start designing the rest of the road and the rest of the project. So we need to discuss that. But you can see the trend was that people were gravitating towards making the sidewalks a little bit bigger to accommodate some of the streetscaping ideas that we had to the left. So check those out. Ask me questions at the end of the meeting. I'll be more than happy to do that. But we continue to get word out. The project's 3 years out, so we will continue to try to do that outreach and make sure that we're being good stewards for the project, because it's going to be noisy, it's going to be messy, it's going to be inconvenience, and we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to still encourage people to come downtown when this project is going on, and make sure the business owners know that this is coming down the line, because it's going to be a great project once it's done, but it's going to be a full year of things going on during that frame. And I guess I gotta do one up on April, which I never can do with people asking, inquiring things, but I have had one person call me up, a real estate agent representing an industrial business who is snooping around in an industrial park. So knock on wood that comes to fruition. And I gave them the information they needed for that. And then another real estate agent must be working on working with the owners. I can't remember how many acres it is, but there's acreage of land west of Cedarhurst off of Pinewood by the church there, by St. John's Church. There's, I can't remember how many acres it is, but there's open land, vacant land there that's, he's going to put it on the market for residential development. So he was asking questions about what's in there for utilities and such. So maybe 2 projects that hopefully come to fruition in the city and down the road. That's all I got.
Very good.
Thank you, Chad. Review potential agenda items for future meetings.
I did talk to Spectrum. Remember we talked last week about digital marketing and what the school district is doing. They couldn't attend this meeting, but he's on the docket for the next meeting. Again, this is just to kind of give us some input of what the school is doing. I'm not even saying we want to do this by any means, but I think it's just a matter of us, jumping through the hoops and seeing what's availability of digital marketing opportunities out there. And then again, I think what we would do as a committee is kind of wait to see what the school does and kind of see their feedback. I mean, how did they feel like how they did on their efforts with that? So, but we'll bring in Spectrum next week just to kind of give us an example of what they can do for digital marketing for the city.
Could we entertain any, like somebody else, other companies besides Spectrum?
Sure. Yep. I think we start with Spectrum just to see as what the possibility of that product could be. And then if that's something you guys really want to do, then we shop around to get our best deal for who could do that best for us, I think. But like I said, I mean, we don't even know if it's something we want to do. Maybe we'll just kind of hear the sales pitch and see what the possibilities are. And then if it's something you guys want to look into more, we can start bringing in other vendors and see which one's better. Kind of go from there. That Oliver one for advancing AI Wisconsin, that's been on there since I started in the position. I don't even honestly know how to reach out to Oliver, but if that's something you guys want for next month, I can do that.
I think Dave Thiel had his contact information because he presented at a county economic development workshop. I remember correctly.
Is that individual from the area or is?
I'm not sure where Oliver's from, but I remember Dave Thiel talking about him in that specific workshop.
Oh, Chad, I don't know if you know, Dave Thiel retired. We had a big gig for him at the county board meeting last month.
Yep, we've got a board meeting tomorrow at noon and then there's a little shindig for his retirement right following that. So I will see him tomorrow.
Do you know if there's been plans for his replacement?
Yes, thank you. I can't remember the gentleman's name. The board did approve a replacement at the last board meeting. So they have another new person on board. I'll get you the contact information.
Wonderful.
I can't
Good,
remember
good.
his name right off the bat,
I was not
but
aware of that.
did meet him and yeah, we'll try to get him to come to London.
Maybe he could be a future guest.
There you go.
Hey, Chad,
Yeah,
could we go back to your report? And I know this is a ways off, but could you give us an idea on the conversations surrounding parking on North Water, both during this project and afterwards? I mean, it sounds great to have bigger sidewalks and outdoor seating, et cetera, but parking is already a premium downtown, and so I'm just curious.
yeah, absolutely. So and April can kind of pipe in too, and Christine, they're also on our committee. We have spent some time just talking about parking. We know that parking is something that downtown people desire and need. So internally, we've talked about changing it to a one-way, doing parallel parking, doing angle parking, you know, how much time do we
There was
spend
a
on
lot
that?
of discussion about parking.
Yeah,
A
so
lot.
we will continue to do that. We did talk to people individually when we had the open house. And because obviously parking is an issue. We talked about bump outs and whether bump outs would be a good thing for pedestrian access, but if we do bump outs, then they're not, then you take away from parking, which we don't want to do either. But I don't think narrowing the roadway is actually going to do anything to modify the number of stalls in the road itself, because it, you know, depending on if you narrow it or widen it, that many stalls is going to continue unless if you would widen it to try to do some more angle parking. And we really talked about angle parking, and correct me if I'm wrong, the DOT does not like angle parking unless it's backed in
Right.
angle parking. I remember our engineer telling us that. So, and because this is a DOT funded grant project, we need to really jump through their hoops as well. So they only really liked angle parking if it was backing in. And if we do that, we really don't have the room enough to try to put angle parking in our current roadway width.
Yeah, I think I thought he had also said that we would only be able to do angle parking on one side of the road and we wouldn't have any parking on the other side. So overall, you're losing
Mhm.
parking spots,
Right.
I think is what the gentleman from McMahon had said.
Yep, exactly.
Hans, this is Mayor Mark. The other thing that was discussed with the boards that Chad brought up is we do have a lot of off-site parking just off of Main Street. But what we did notice is maybe the people do not realize how much parking that we have back there, and maybe we can put street signs up and better mark that they're just off-site.
Mhm.
That's a great point, because when we're talking, we have one of these pictures, I think, is a blown up of the downtown. Maybe I didn't bring it. I think it's in my
No,
office.
it's
yet.
not in.
But if you really look at that picture, you really, and look at it, you really notice how much off-street parking there is, you know, by the bank, by Festival Foods. I mean, within a block or two, you know,
Yeah.
obviously it's not right in front of the businesses, but if you're willing to walk a block or two, there's a ton of parking, you know,
Yep.
adjacent to
Yep.
the downtown. But again, that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep on pursuing and maximize what we can right in the middle of downtown for businesses. So.
We included that in our survey as well to the business owners, if they were willing to open up their private parking for the public during the shutdown to bring some more parking to the area during at least that time.
Correct. So, Hans, did that answer your question?
We did. I was just gonna say the same thing, that I think my understanding is that probably most of that parking is all actually private parking. Although there's a lot of parking space, it's not technically public.
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
Anything
moving
else?
on. Public comment? Hearing none, we'll review the next meeting date.
Next normal meeting date would be Tuesday, August 31st.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.